Hey, my name's Paul Manning. I'm an undercover police officer. I infiltrated the Mafia and the Hells Angels at the same time. Wrote a book about it, 1078, and I'm chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Paul.
Because Tony was going to kill him. Tony was stabbed him.
So if you step in and kind of diffuse the situation.
Usually Tony would take offense, but he was so fucking wasted. He didn't say anything. He literally went to it. Because I threw this guy against an ATM. So when I pulled him out by his throat, I got him right behind the throat. I threw him against an ATM. And the ATM shifted. I hit him that hard, the ATM. And I go back in, and I expect an argument. I tell them to leave. I tell him to go and get his mates and leave, and he does. I say, don't finish your drink, just fucking go. And he does. And I go back in, and I expect an argument from Tony. Don't get involved in my matters, etc., etc. And he doesn't. He just stood there looking at me. He goes, you know what? What? You know, when you threw that guy into that ATM machine? I said, yeah. He said, it moved. I'm like, right. He said, we could take it. So we're literally, not 3 minutes later, we're trying to lift this ATM machine out the lobby away because it's what he wanted to do and I wanted to play along. And the manager comes out, the manager gets threatened and we decide to leave. But it was just imagine the craziest time, and then it was time and time again. But then this is over 2 years. So there was times when nothing happened for a week and it was glorious. It was glorious. There was no paperwork, there's no notes. It was just chill.
Are you kicking money up to the top guys in the mob?
I'm not a mobster. You want to make money off me, that's fine, but I make money as well. I'm not a mobster. I went to the Brick. Do you have the Brick in America? Furniture store.
They have them.
Yeah, so it's a furniture store called the Brick, but they do electronics as well. And I go in there, and I've got maybe $3 or $4 grand from smokes that I've sold. And I go in there, and they've got DVD players on $49. And I'm like, okay, I'll take 3 off you. So I put them in the back of a car. And I drive my UC car down there, and then there's an old guy, a wise guy, he's a capo. He says, what are you doing? I said, I just picked up some DVD players. You want a DVD player? He's like, yeah. So he looks in. He said, how much? I said, $90. He's like, no. I'll give you 80. I'll give you $240 for all 3. I'm like, okay then. So I made $110 or something like that. So I'm like, great. He says, can you get any more? I'm like, just hang on, I'll phone my contact. So I literally in front of him, I phone the Brick. Like, yeah, how many more DVD players have you got? She says 22. I said, yeah, hold them all for me. I'm coming for them now. So I turn around to her and said 22. He's like, how much each? So I give him a price. And then I made another $400 off the guy. So, but this is the same guy. I had cigarette lighters. Well, I got a lot of cigarette lighters. We went and bought them. And this is a guy driving a $100,000 truck. He's got gold jewelry on. He's got money. He's always got a wad on him. And he looks in the back of the car. He wants to see what I've got today because I used to sell stolen stuff out of the car. He wants to see what I've got today. And he says, how much you want for the cigarette lighters? I said, no, I've got to buy it. Said, no, I'm not asking. How much you want for the cigarette lighters? I'm like, 45. He's like, okay. He literally takes them off me, gives me $45. He walks across the road to the 5-star store or whatever it was called. It was a little convenience store across the road. He walks in there. He comes out, Bill, and he shows me $47. Puts it in his pocket and walks off. He made $2. He was so happy with himself. It's all about these guys. So these guys, let me put it this way: these guys could be sat in the living room on a sofa made of money, watching a TV made of money, and smoking money, and they could see $1 they could steal outside. They go and steal it because that's the nature. That's the nature. They're always mobsters.
Do you think they're tightwads with their money?
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't want to spend it.
No. They don't want to spend. No. Bikers are different. Bikers will throw money around. The mobsters are like, I have no money on me. Can you front me 20? And you know they're sat on $500 in the back pocket. Do you know what I mean? So they are what they are. They're all about the dollar. They're all about the dollar. But they're very specific. They're very specific in everything they do. They're a lot. Probably, I've worked the Albanians. I've worked the Russians. The Italians are probably the most efficient.
So, there were a lot of killings in the Mafia in recent years in Canada.
Yeah. So those are all the guys I worked undercover on. So effectively, the nature of the operation, when it changed from buy bust, the nature of the operation, there was two brothers in jail for a homicide back in '98. I want to say, I think May '98. They killed Johnny Papalia, who was a big boss in Canada at the time. They had him killed. They used a guy called Kenny Murdoch, and that was one of 3 homicides. And they pled guilty to conspiracy or something like that. They went to jail for 8 years, 10 years. The goal of the operation was for me to be in a position when they got out to put them straight back in jail. Because these guys are wise guys. These guys are not guys that come out and go, you know what, I'm going to lead the normal life now. I'm going to take the kids to baseball, and they're not. So that was the target operation. They got out on October the 10th, I believe, 2006. The operation went down about a week before. It got burnt. It was just very coincidental. So Ange was the younger brother. I think 2017, he got clipped on his driveway in front of his kids. Pat was the older brother.
I remember seeing that. There's a video.
Yeah, Pat got clipped in a parking lot, his lawyer's parking lot, but survived. He got shot in the face and survived. Mm-hmm. And then I think they got him a year later. They plugged him in Burlington. So, you know what? No threat. Lou Malone, exactly the same. He took a shotgun to the face. So all these guys are dead or in jail.
And then there was that black guy that had association with the Hells Angels, Greg. Was his name Gregory?
Greg?
Yeah.
Give me a clue.
Let me see.
It was Greg Birch, but he was the president. He wasn't black.
Let me see. Gregory Woolley.
Don't know.
No, he was killed in November 2003. He was a Haitian-born Canadian mobster associated with the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club.
Well, don't know him, but I didn't get to Canada until 2005.
Now, did you have any association?
There's a massive history before I got to Canada. This isn't just started.
Yeah.
I'm not the catalyst for this, but I mean, like with K9, Johnny K9 that I told you about, that raging psychopath. He went to bomb the Hells Angels clubhouse down in Sarnia. So he took a bomb and he drove down there on his bike and he was going to bomb the clubhouse. And he gets there and his intention is to knock on the door, and when they open the door, throw the bomb in. Okay, this is how he thinks. There's nobody in. The place is vacant. So what does he do? He takes the bomb and he takes it down to Sarnia police station and he puts it outside the police station and blows up the police station. He didn't want to waste it. You've got to. He's thinking. You've got to imagine that sometimes these people don't think like you or I would. They know the rules don't apply, but they don't think like you or I would. But K9 was unique when it came to especially to bikers. But yeah, I don't know. I've heard the name Greg Woolley, but I don't know anything about him. I had nothing to do with him. Never part of the investigation.
It says Ontario. He was in Ontario.
Yeah, same. But there's a number of clubhouses throughout Ontario.
So now, who was the president
of the Hells Angels at the time? Greg Birch. Greg Birch.
And was he? How was he when you met him?
I met him 4 or 5 times. Very quiet. Very quiet. But that night, he turned up that night for the party. He was in the back of the Winnebago. And he went straight in, sat with a guy called Pinot Avignon. And Pinot's definitely a capo, if not a boss now. And Pinot was there when Pat was killed. And Pinot did time for a murder. I think a conspiracy to commit murder. Dominic Racco, way back in the day, back in the 90s. They killed this guy out on the railroad tracks in Burlington. He owed money to the wrong people. And even though he's a made guy and his dad was a big mobster, when his dad died and he still owed this money, they went to collect and he didn't have it, so they killed him.
Does the Rock Machine have a presence around that area too?
Give me a second. I never dealt with them. I've got to be honest. I mean, even Satan's tried to make a comeback when I was undercover. and then for the year afterwards. And they just got destroyed by the Hells Angels. They got eaten up by the Hells Angels. And a lot of these guys know each other. They've been in gangs together, which makes it a lot easier for it to get eaten up and taken out or taken over. So the Red Devils were there, and the Red Devils is the puppet club for the Hells Angels. Yeah. And the Red Devils is the first one. They were formed in the 40s or something like that in Hamilton. So it's pretty famous for that. But the Red Devils were the first one, and then the Hells Angels came about. But so the Hells Angels, I don't know whether you know the script with Outlaw Biker Gangs. There's a lot of rules, and you become a prospect for a year, and then you get fully patched, and you become a Hells Angel. But when you're from the Red Devils, you don't go through the prospect stage. They don't make you a prospect. There's a lot of embarrassment. There's a lot of hazing with the prospects. There's a lot of bad treatment as well, and then everybody's got to vote positively for you to join and become a Hells Angel. So if you're with the Red Devils and you're a fully patched member of the Red Devils, you become what's called a striker, and you go straight into the club as a striker, and then after a year you get your patch, so you don't have to go through the hazing and all the bullshit. Yeah. But they're pretty efficient at what they do. They are, but it's like I said, the mob are the most organized.
Have you seen them treat? Have you seen them treat their prospects bad?
They did. You know what? I have, not in Ontario, but back in the UK. However, Lou Malone was a prospect, and with the exception of him buying them a few drinks and driving the Winnebago when he was clearly drunk and high, they didn't treat him badly. But there's a real reason behind that.
Because he was a little.
Lou was a different kettle of fish.
A tough guy, right?
He was a handy guy. He was a handy guy.
So the Mafia and the bikers had a alliance where they would sell drugs up in Canada, and that alliance got broke somehow, and they started going to war where they were killing each other. Did you?
I think that was out in Montreal. I know very little about it. Yeah, so you got to imagine, especially with a mob, one wrong word can put you in a stage of war with another family. There's got to be a lot of respect. It's got to work both ways. And when these people don't like each other, they'll still do business together, but they'll let them know they don't like each other. It's only when you step across a line, and I think with the mob, it's daughters, it's wives, it's disrespect. You screw somebody over on a deal with a mob, they're not going to come after you and kill you. They're going to go to the bosses and they're going to say to the bosses, listen, this guy needs taxing. And then they're all going to have a sit down, and they're all going to be brought together, and a boss is going to tell his guy that this is what you're going to do. You're going to pay him 40 grand. And they're going to do it. They're not going to disagree with the boss's orders. Simple as that. So I never really saw any of it. But the Hells Angels and the Mafia were really tight. They were really tight. That night we partied. They were really tight. There was no issues. There was no fighting. There was just party.
So when did this whole undercover operation come to an end?
So we sat at home. We've got family over from the UK. I'm making plans, extensive plans that I've not told the police about. I started making notes in another notebook. I knew we'd been sold out, but I also knew the behaviour was disgusting. Some of the things they were doing. They were turning up at debriefs drunk. So I knew the cover team had been drinking. Well, if you're drinking, you're not covering me off. And there was an incident where a guy comes to pick me up, and what I do is, you're part of my cover team, Bill. I'm going to give you a heads up. So I'm going to break off, and this guy wants to go for a drive. I'm going to say, yeah, give me a second. Let me get some cash. And I'm go, all right, Bill, I'm moving. Okay, don't know where I'm going. This is the vehicle I'm in. And then this guy turns up. He's like, Englishman, get in. I'm like, no, okay, I need to go piss. He's like, no, get in. I'm like, no, I need cash. No cash. He's like, no, I've got money. Don't worry, get in.